it was the most tangible initiatory experience it was. Like what I said in front of on that stage is 100% authentic in terms of how I meet reality. Like, like this doesn't make any sense to you guys, but you guys aren't who's looking back at me in the mirror at the end of the day.
Yeah. That is interesting, though. That is wild. That you must have been onto something, though, if they asked you to come there.
Well, hopefully we'll see that today.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting. I'm wondering if you were even bringing up like certain history that they even acknowledge that most people don't even pick up on. It wasn't even to badmouth them. It's just like this guy actually has his history down. You never know.
Well,
I just find it interesting that they asked you. You had to have had something of value in it.
Oh yeah, it certainly is. Like Ricardo said something which a little bit earlier, which is been my like how I went through this entire process of like maybe whatever the information we're going to share is. And it's like, I'm just looking for contradictions. I'm like, any place I could find a contradiction, like I'm going to go deeper. Where can I go where there's no contradiction? And then following that path, like that's what we got. And being willing to not come to a conclusion, but just recognizing like truth, which is in front of you, which is like implied, and one which is like, well, it's a mystery, but it's real. So yeah, that's what we'll cover, or at least the angle which I'll approach it and present it by.
Oh, you know what? I just want to ask you real quick. Weird question. You may not notice it or remember. When you were there, did anybody pat you or slap you anywhere, like really like light enough just to get your attention?
I don't remember. Maybe.
Because in initiations, this is something that I learned in the OTO, because after you do an initiation, they do a class. There's a time where like they slap, like there's a time where they take a sword and they'll actually slightly tap you on your waist. Afterwards, they're telling you, we did that to activate your chakra.
Right.
So like literally after you take the initiation, they're telling you that we actually did certain things to it's like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So no, I'm just wondering if maybe that happened. It was just a thought. It was just
very possible. Very
possible.
Well, there is that angle of this natural initiation, right? So in the Eleusinian mysteries and things like that, they had the idea that maybe you're being put into these situations by the gods as a test. You know, this is initiating you to the next level. And in life, you see that same sort of thing happening again and again. Life is trying to activate that chakra, you know? It's trying to say, hey, look around. This is something. Something is happening. You know, pay attention.
Yeah, that's what I mean by with the gonzo research is, for me at least, like if it's just like reading facts and learning stuff, like that seems to defeat the purpose of being alive in a body. Like we're meant to experience life, but maybe we learn things to have a perspective of what it is we're experiencing. Because I mean, I can only speak for myself. I've got no idea what this place is. I mean, I know what they tell me it is, but I don't know that.
It's just a ride.
Yeah. A ride on what?
I agree.
I was thinking about Bill Hicks.
Challenging as much as it is like, I hold that as like, that's a question I can't answer. Right. So if I can't answer that question, like anything which is based upon the assumption that I know that answer, like that falls apart. That would be a contradiction for me. It's like, well, what I do know is I'm alive. And I do know that, like, you know, there's an experience in my life. This is with a body and it's solid beneath my feet. And I can see the stuff upstairs. But I really don't know anything for certain, like, other than that, what I can track. So that
it sounds solid. It doesn't mean that it is solid. It appears solid, right? And you accept to experience it for what it is and be aware of it or not. But you can always experience it.
I've not pushed through the ground yet with my feet, though.
Also,
that's what I'm waiting for. But that's been the internal compass, which like all of this stuff kind of came about.
All right. So this is the presentation that you did there kind of what you're going to be talking about here too? Or
definitely.
Thing?
So
awesome. All right. So if you want to, I guess.
So so I gave a little bit of the context of how I'd like to present this, which is like I come with the perspective, like the stuff that's a mystery, I don't think I'm going to be able to solve, and I accept the mystery. So I'm looking at this for as real as it can be for where I can't make it fall apart. And I recognize where it's coming from. And then this research began 10 years ago. And so when I said that I'm coming back, I'm revisiting this research, which I started so long ago, but coupled with everything which I personally learned, experienced, concluded on this 3.5-year journey. And it's not to say that this is truth. This is meant to say that these are the conclusions I've reached, and this is how I've come to it through actual experience. And it's an invitation. Like, this either speaks to someone or it doesn't. They hear its whisper or they don't. And so this is one part, what I call the Susquehanna Codex is one part of like a 3 pieces that go together. But I figured that that's the most tangible to work with. The other 2 being natural astrology versus, it's more like astromonia is what I would call it. The other one has to do with like inner work sort of things, but the 3 of them going together. And the reason why the Susquehanna Codex is so interesting, and I'll just start it with this one kind of tidbit, and we can go into it, is what we find on this, whatever this is, what we are told by the system that indoctrinates us, this is the oldest river. Or if not the oldest river, like, in that very, very rare air, it's definitely the oldest river system on the planet. And it's where the information age, like the technological age that we are living in right now, that seemingly came out of the blue in 1945 and so forth. Like, this is where myth and history and geology and all sorts of different things, they meet right there.
Forgive my ignorance, but why do you say it's the oldest river in the world? I really don't know. I'm just asking.
So let's go, Nick, can you go to like 2 slides down?
Sure. 2 doors down.
So go back up. That one right there. So I don't say that. I'm just saying this is what the Wikipedia geologists tell me. So
no, I'm not contradicting. I really don't know. I'm just curious how you could assert a certain.
Oh, how did they know? Are you asking me how they
know?
No,
I just
don't know. I'm just repeating what they told me for the age.
Sure.
So typically how they do something like that. So one of the ways which they date rivers is by looking at a river's relationship with a mountain chain. If there's a relationship where rivers and mountains meet, if the river goes through the mountain chain, like almost kind of perpendicular, it predates the mountains. And if it goes around it, it comes after the mountains because water takes the path of least resistance. So the Amazon does that with the Andes, for example, like hits the Andes and like turns left. This river right here goes through the Appalachians. And so the Appalachians are generally thought of through all sorts of like mineral dating stuff and like the squattiness of the Appalachians to be one, if not one of the oldest mountain chains that's on Earth. And then this river goes through that mountain chain.
Okay.
So like stuff like that and mineral content. My personal opinion is this: when I share this information, I'm using the information that the system gives me. Like, I don't know that, but this is the information they give me.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, I don't even know if there was like 100 years ago. Like I'm just like open enough to like, I'm only grounded on what they're telling me, but what I'm really grounded on is like, I don't know, but I'll build on what they told me.
Sure, of course. We have to have a basis, and they are doing the work.
Yes.
So
yes,
they're the experts.
they're the experts. And so they tell me that. And they also tell me, or actually, I know this from experience. I know that in this realm, hierarchy matters. And what I mean by that is that which is oldest has influence on what comes after it.
Ooh.
And we can see that from everything like your own lived experiences, like, your first 7 years of your life set up your psychological frame for everything else. Or in traditional communities where the person who's lived the longest is most influential. Or if you go to a wooded area, the oldest tree has a memory and an influence in that forested area that no other tree does. Like there's a hierarchy truth. Like there's a lot of ways we can look at it. And
Yeah,
so
I was gonna say, I like that how you used humans, because like I could even say just in a family situation, your grandparents die. How many years later you're gonna stop doing certain traditions that they made you do?
yeah.
I within 5 to 10. They're not fucking on your case to do it anymore. It's just
So
interesting that you said that. I get what you said.
yeah. So that's kind of like where the oldest river is to me. This is all like invitation, an invitation. Like, can I listen? Can I listen a little bit closer? Like, what are you telling me? What are you telling me? And when you begin to listen to this tale of this, I mean, I'm not saying it's a simulation. I don't know. I just know that's a popular theory right about now. But I do know that I don't know what this is. So I like to say that this river represents, whatever this may be, the primary channel on motherboard Earth. Like, that's what the oldest river is. Like, on this planet, flowing water is a literal representation of life, because this is a realm, I won't even use the word planet, a realm where water is directly linked to life. So when you see it moving in literal form, and we see the oldest, there's like an implication that maybe there's something there. And we begin this with a hypothesis, not a conclusion, not saying like that's a definite truth, but like, okay, like I can start to build on this, or at least that's what the approach is. So now let's go look at the oldest computer. Let's go down a couple slides. Can we, Nick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Keep going.
Sorry about this. Didn't want to go too fast on you. Oh, is this
All
the
right,
one?
So here we are. So this is what we're told is the first ENIAC, the first first electric general purpose computer. And you could go up a slide. Oh no, the one where maybe go up one more.
Okay. So.
Where was the one where it was the pictures of the signs? No, the other way.
Okay.
There
we go. Yes.
So one of the markers, which I'll move through reality. So, and I recognize a difference between paradigm reality and like what I'll call baseline reality. Myth, linking story to land, is very, very significant in terms of collective conscious storytelling. So like when you start looking at these historical markers, they're like, this is the thing. And the story, even if it didn't happen, even if it doesn't happen, like there's a link in the earth. But when it does happen, it's even more true. And you can see on the right that according to the official storytellers of whoever writes this stuff, they're like, this is the birth of the information age on the oldest river. And so now we're like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Right. By their standards, it could have been a room full of empty boxes. But as long as the people who are interested in computing are reaching back to that room full of empty boxes in their minds when they're thinking about how to expand the information age, how to work with computers, it still exists as that touch point.
Exactly. I mean, and then it goes back to like, we could be sleeping in the matrix tubes right now, having this conversation in some sort of matrix goo. Like there's a level like this is such a weird place, and we have so many blind spots. Like anything's fucking possible. And so like we're kind of like the whole adage of like all of us in the dark room touching the elephant, and we're trying to figure out what the hell it is. Like, I mean, that's fair. That's fair to explain this experience. So, but we can see that we're working with something. They're giving us these friggin' clues, whoever they is, right? Whatever this fun house is. So now let's go to this, and I'm going to go and cut down to like to the end of this, and we could fill in the rest with like questions or like observations from Ricardo or Heidi, because that's where I think it gets alive. The story is when people start asking questions. Can you, Nick, go to the slide of the cross? One more. Yes, that one. So all of that considered, we're just like looking at data points. So what we can see right here is an alignment of 4 colleges that have been built. Probably, I think the earliest one was 1723. The last one was 1899. So what, like 170 years or something like that, like in time. And if you were to literally go like those lines that are drawn on this, overlaid on this Google Earth map is precise. Like I've got videos where you can see it. You can do it yourself. But this is a precise alignment of these 4 colleges that have, without even getting into the colleges, that then are centered. That red circle in the middle is like this park, and it's got this alchemical symbol, and it ties into like John Smith and a map. And it's right over the oldest river, going parallel at the secret location. And it goes right over the exact spot where the first computer goes. And you begin to start to say like, well, okay, well, what is this? Like, what does this mean anything? Is this a broken clock? Means it is accurate twice a day. Like this is like the whisper. This is the invitation. So there's a lot in between these two, but I want to begin with like these endpoints before I stop, like kind of talking to hear some initial thoughts or questions or observations.
So I would say that the use of sacred geometry is not unusual, especially at that age. That the people that would building these buildings were the ones that were preparing to destroy the world of the natural philosophers and transform it finally into the world of materialists, but they were applying the symbology and hiding it from the public. So this is one thing that they only would know. They would also participate in many institutions that practiced rituals, and they probably use that central place to practice those rituals because that place has some kind of significance to them, if not created by the constructions themselves. That's how I would in a preliminary view, because I don't know what you're going to talk about, that's how I would analyze what I'm seeing.
All right.
All right.
Possibly charging the area with the energy.
I even think the river, and I do find it interesting. Like if that is a bend over there, Ricardo, haven't you even mentioned like seeing things built by bends of rivers?
Ever.
I find that interesting. I don't know.
That's where the mounds go. Mounds go at the bends of rivers.
Let's go to, can we go to the map slide? So that would be towards the earlier part of the slide presentation, like the old fashioned looking map. Keep going. That one. So we'll go right there. So this is what they're telling us in history. So this is called the John Smith map of Virginia. Do you know who John Smith is?
Nope.
I have the map, but I don't know who it is.
So have you ever seen the movie Pocahontas?
The movie, no.
Yes.
Are you familiar that there's a story about Pocahontas in our
culture? Yeah, I do that, yeah.
John Smith is the hero, if you will, in the Pocahontas story. And so in this history, they tell us John Smith was the leader of the Jamestown colony. And the Jamestown colony is where both the United States and the British Empire began. Like if we want to go through their mythology and the history. And I say that because Jamestown was the first of the colonies that became the 13 colonies, which then became the United States. And then Jamestown is also the first permanent colony of the British Empire outside of the British Isles. And so Britain, their historians recognize Jamestown as the birth of the British Empire. So this map, and I'm just giving context right now, this isn't just some random map. This is a map which ties into that story. And so this is a map of our river, same river we're talking about. It's, go down one more slide, Nick. Please. There. So you could see where it's sideways now, how it lines up. That's the Chesapeake Bay, which is the Susquehanna River. It's the same body of water. And so where I'm going with all of this is this map, when you go and you like pull a little bit of the threads of the history, this map connects directly to Francis Bacon, whomever Francis Bacon is. But all roads from Manly P. Hall esoteric studies say everything goes through Francis Bacon, including this map, because he sat on the board. He was an executive director of the company which was funding the Jamestown operation. So in this map, there's a secret location. So let's go down. Let's slide this down a little bit. So let's stop right here. Actually, we'll go back to this. This is just from some book of a guy who made the same realization I did, where he's suggesting that John Smith, not necessarily his maps, but his writings are actually not his writings at all, but he's just a front piece of Francis Bacon. So John Smith
normally happens to people that's called John Smith, because it's usually used to mean nobody.
Exactly. 100% correct. Yes, it's a name holder name. I think that's what Francis Bacon is too. Like, I mean, that seems to be the way which the story goes, just like Ben Franklin, all BFFB. And when you see like everything goes through this one individual, like that seems to be a modus operandi to me, but it still points to something. So let's go down one more, Nick, if you don't mind. When you look closely at the map, like it's a literal map. It's a map of like what we now think of as Pennsylvania, New York, Maryland, and Virginia. They have latitudinal markers going across, and they're accurate. And when you look closely, you'll see that the 40 isn't just backwards, it's mirrored. The 4 is pointing in the opposite direction. And so now we got like, it's kind of a smoking gun. When I first saw this, I was like, okay, well, how do they explain this away? And there was just like no hits on Google when I'm searching like John Smith map, reverse 40, what the fuck? Like nothing's coming up. But it's there. So Francis Bacon is also credited with the scientific method, introducing that. So we're like, okay, this is my hypothesis. Let me create a hypothesis and I test it. And the hypothesis was, let's go down one more slide, Nick, if you don't.
Yeah.
The what? Yes, that one right there. So also on the map, arguably the most visually dominant piece of the map is this character right here, which is a Susquehannock. And the language underneath its feet, or right by its foot, it says the Susquehannocks are giant-like people, thus attired. Like just something that makes a whole bunch of sense, right? On a map. Like they're giant-like and they dress like giants. They were attired, right, as giants, dressed with a Freemasonic apron and wearing a crown and a jewel and like the posture. But what I'm suggesting here, though, is on this map, both a people who are known as the Susquehannocks and then a river are named. Like this is when the name is introduced into the collective. And in the context of hiding secret information in a public document, in my hypothesis, the hypothesis was, well, the 40th parallel at the Susquehanna River, whereas this individual is a double entendre, a person representing the river, and it's right underneath that reverse 40. So it's like the cross section of the 40th parallel in the river. So now let's go, Nick, if we could go to the slides. Let's see the slide. It should say, it'll have pictures. Let's go up. We're not even touching the John D stuff yet. So we'll go back to the pictures. Keep going up. Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
The other way?
Or
Okay.
a picture of a park. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah. So, okay. So this is a close-up right here of the upper cross. And it's almost an absolute perfect T-square. The circles, if you were to zoom in, and I'll send you guys all copies if you're interested of this PowerPoint, the small circles you'll see like on the Rand McNally map show you this is where the college campuses are, and they're centered right at that yellow dot, which is the Susquehanna River at the 40th parallel. and there's something there. It's called High Point Scenic Vista. So let's go
High
down.
Point? Yeah.
High Point Scenic Vista.
Wonder if
I
it's a
like to call it H.P. Blavatsky Scenic Vista, but that's just me. And you'll understand a little bit later why, because of the theosophical connection to this. But let's go down one more slide.
Oh no.
Like it goes on forever. That's what I mean, Nick. It's like it's too much. Everything. Let's keep going. Keep going. I'm looking for. Let's keep going. Yeah, this is it. So you can see right there. That's where it's High Point Scenic Vista, and it just so happens that it's on a 23.5 degree off angle from the exact north-south of the 40th parallel. So it's in total harmony with the tilt of the Earth, because that's 23.5 degrees. These people know what they're doing. So let's go down one more.
Oh, shit.
So this is it. So we're going to look right here. This is a satellite image. You can see on the right where it says the Susquehanna River. The arrow is from a eagle's eye view of where High Point actually is. And that dotted line is 40 degrees, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. There's about 70 miles between degrees. So in theory, you could say 40th parallel and have a very wide brushstroke. But we're going to start with our razor thin pencil, and we're going to go right at 40 degrees, 0 minutes, 0 seconds, and we'll see that's where High Point is. That's what this whole cross is situated on, this perfectly aligned cross. So let's go down. Let's go down one more in the slide. This is High Point, and we'll go one more. And this is what it looks like when you get up there. This is it. You know, it's like nothing too fancy. And it's a circle, and it's got 360 degrees vistas overlooking the oldest river on earth at like a location that seemingly was important to the people who made that map. And then when we look at it, let's go one more slide, Nick. This is what it looks like from like above. It's a crescent moon, and it's a sun. And I know the guy who designed it, and he told me the story about how he designed it. It's possible that he lives a double life, and he just told me like a story, or he's telling me the truth, which is what my intuition is. And he ain't in no secret society. He did it for a totally different reason. I think I've got one more slide after that. And you could see this is the same symbol that shows up over and over again. And so now we're starting to like this cake is beginning to form. We don't know exactly what we're looking at, but when you begin to, at least, like this is just the first point, when we begin to realize that we live in a technological age. I'm looking around at all of the faces here, and I think we can all remember what it was like when people didn't have computers in their home. We can remember maybe even when there wasn't even cable TV. Like, we know that life on Earth wasn't like this. And this is whatever technology is, without saying good or bad, just saying like we can see it spreading, and we can maybe have an idea of where it's going. When we begin to see this much of intention is upon this river, which also overlaps, and this is just the beginning, this is just the tippiest of the iceberg, it overlaps the first computer that phonetically sounds a whole lot like Enochian magic. We're beginning to be like, okay, well, what's coming into focus, and what does this mean, and why would this matter to me in my day-to-day life?
Mike, if I could pop in there real quick. So what, from my experience, I do a lot of research in the Canaanite Phoenicians, and they have this motif called Tanit. And Tanit is like this triangle goddess with this eye of providence, which is like a combination of the moon and the sun above her. And she's the goddess of the Tophet, right? So she's the one that you sacrifice the kids to, and it's always under the eye of providence, which is like this merging of the sun and the moon. And so,
what's the name? Can you say the name again? The technique?
Tanit, Tenet.
Well, if you even think about like the symbol for it, like you've covered, I mean, it's a flag, which looks like that 4.
It's the And it sounds, the phonetics, the enunciation is tenet.
Tenny.
Like
Well, yeah,
the wording to say the square.
It's got a long dot over the I, so I'm not
Okay.
exactly sure what that pronunciation is, but I assume it's tenit because it's a longer
Okay.
symbol.
All
But
right.
this is the Carthaginian goddess, right? So these were the people exploring the world way before anybody else got that idea. You know, these are the ones who invented our alphabet. That's why you're using the term phonetics over and over again. It's Phoenician.
Exactly. Exactly. What do you, whoa, I almost fell off my chair. I'm so excited about that. So when it says the Susquehannocks are giant-like people, thus attired, it's making reference to Tyre. Like
One of
this
the
all
cities
goes back through the Phoenicians.
yes, all of it.
In fact, if you go and you look at like the stories which are put out by the newspapers, like there was a scholastic debate on a stone that was found on this river at this location with Phoenician carvings in like the 1950s. Like this is like like some of the, what's his name? Is it Barry Kent? The guy who is the Harvard linguist who's written a lot about like the Gaelic and Algonquin overlap. I think he wrote America BC. Like a lot of his work points to like these overlaps, which like point to, you know, some sort of connection, however that is, with Phoenician. So when an expert like yourself drops in something like what you just did, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, I want to pull up a couple of examples real quick. Maybe you can see them here. See that
I
Eye
think
of
if
Providence right above her head? She's the kind of triangle figure goddess.
Yeah, for sure. That thing right in the middle.
Right above it is that sun and moon together.
Right.
Well, here's a more recent example. We've got old Gloria there with her kids. Right, one of them is a sacrificial kid, and the other one is Anderson Cooper. And right behind her, we see this figure of Tanit with that little Eye of Providence sitting above her. And this is in the 1970s. That's Anderson Cooper's mom putting them. And if you see, she's got that burning man inside of a box right beneath her, just like the old Canaanite Phoenician practices of at the Tophet of sacrificing babies. So there's this aspect of human sacrifice that goes along with this Eye of Providence, the sun and the moon merging. And this is part of this ancient religion that goes into these first explorers that went everywhere. And we see all this Canaanite Phoenician stuff associated with the copper mines in Michigan. And we see
exactly.
it in
Nick,
England.
will you go to slide number 3?
Yeah.
So we end up on this sort of Phoenician cycle over and over again. And now we're at the end point where the Phoenicians decided, hey, everything sucks.
Right
we
there.
might as well sacrifice it all.
So looking at this map, so we're looking on the one on the right, we're looking at the in totality of a body of water, which is called Susquehanna, which the conclusion which I stand upon, not meaning that I wouldn't change it if something new would come along, but based upon what I've been exposed to and experienced so far, it makes sense that the Susquehanna is the same as what they call the Sequana over in Europe. It's the same concept. It's the same like entity, if you will. This is part of the naming ritual. So the Susquehanna River, when you go, its source location is in the upper right-hand corner, and it spills out from a lake. So there's a big lake, and then the lake drains, and that becomes a river, which at its widest point is like almost 1.5 miles wide. This location is maybe 2 blocks away from the Baseball Hall of Fame. So it's Cooperstown, New York. So this river begins in Cooperstown, New York. And now we've got like tied in. So we've got the oldest computer, right? Like, there's tied in, woven into the history. Now we've got like baseball. And so baseball is a really interesting thread, But the reason why I want to bring this up is because of your talk about sacrifice. Because at the level which this is working on is like, we're dealing with symbol, concept, archetype, and sacrifice is one of them. And so now we think of baseball, and baseball maybe more so than any other of our eternal pastimes is tied into sacrifice, like just like a sacrifice out, like it's imbued in the exoteric telling of the game that sacrifice is part of this, and it's a good part of the game. So when you go and you look a little bit deeper into like, well, why is the Baseball Hall of Fame there? It's based upon this ridiculous story, which sports writers don't take seriously, and they call it the Abner Doubleday myth. And the story is right. You're nodding your head, so I think you know it. It's like this guy said that supposedly Abner Doubleday, who's a well-known, in fact, famous Civil War general who rose to his fame pretty close to the Susquehanna River in the 40th parallel in Gettysburg, he invented baseball right here in Cooperstown, and that's kind of the story, and that's like the outer telling of like the justification of the Baseball Hall of Fame. And you dig a little bit deeper with that, and you're like, well, hold on. Abner Doubleday isn't just like a baseball Hall of Fame or a famous Civil War general, but he was also the former president of the Theosophical Society. And then the guy who said that this happened was Albert Spalding, who was a major player in the Theosophical Society. And then you begin to realize, like, is this like kind of like, how does this tie into the Theosophical Society? And then you go and you're like, well, that's one angle, but who actually built the Baseball Hall of Fame? And you go and you see it's the Clark family. The Clark family is, they were Gilded Age. They're a Gilded Age family that made their money through the Singer sewing machine. And they got into all sorts of different stuff once the money started coming in, and the founder, maybe it was his son, got into real estate development. So real estate development, building buildings, is in this family line. And so the grandfather is best known, and when I say the grandfather, this guy's alive in the 1800s. He was best known as a real estate developer for building the Dakota in New York City, on Central Park, the same building where John Lennon was assassinated, same building where Rosemary's Baby was filmed, the same building where the Ghostbusters are channeling the Babylonian gods, and you're beginning to see this, like, what is the story? That lineage that builds on that level were the funders of the Baseball Hall of Fame, on the mouth of the oldest river, tied in with the Theosophical Society. And now we're beginning to what are we working with? What are we working with here?
Mike, I don't know if you've ever researched the Society of the Cincinnati.
Definitely.
I think that is one of these keys that is just so ignored by all these conspiracy researchers. These are the old world family bloodlines that have integrated themselves as the corporate infrastructure of America. These are the ones behind, all these major corporations we know about, all of these major issues. But are they even really Americans? Are they, European transplants? So maybe they have a different loyalty, and what we're seeing now as our history is just sort of the veneer of the real history of these different family bloodlines.
I mean, I'm so clueless. Like, the more I look at different histories and families, the more my head's like, because there's so much. Like, that's why I always go back personally to I don't know what this place is. What's a red herring? What's an indication of quantum timeline? What's a hidden history? What's a this? What's just an old program in this simulation? The families of Cincinnati, the Black nobility, the Phoenicians, I'm just assuming it's the same, whatever that entity is. You always see it behind the scenes of creating the environment of what I call the paradigm.
Well, it's several agendas that conflicted with one another at some important time, and some prevailed and some didn't. And what we have today is from those that gained victory,
Maybe.
obviously, right? They wrote the
Maybe.
history, not us. They wrote the history.
Right.
Well,
Well, what was the obviously? That's the word which I always struggle with. Is like, well, I don't know why that's obvious.
Why it's
one of the
obvious?
things that
Like so, but I was confused by how you used obvious. Like, you said it too fast. But I want to make certain I'm not missing something.
I'm just saying that whatever result we have today, and setting it apart at if this is real or not, we are here assuming that it is, then let's bypass the fact that it is or not, because it doesn't matter, because for us it can be real if we choose so. So and it's easy to go away too. If you don't like it, there's many
Right.
ways you decide to look to
Right.
see if there is
Okay.
something on the other side or not. But my point is, what we have today is created by those that prevailed, and there were not one or two just factions with agendas trying to implant their own ideas. There were many, but some merged, some were defeated, and what we have today, the history we have today, the reality we have today, was built by these families, by these groups, by these bloodlines that survived and managed to reach to where we are today. That's obvious to me.
Right. Okay. I understand.
Yes.
it's a hierarchy of
Just wrote the
conflicts.
history. Yeah, you totally get what you're saying. The winner always pretty much, does.
Okay.
Well,
All
'cause
right.
you've got your
Yeah,
contradictions, and then they've got their contradictions, and you're looking at these different contradictions, and you're thinking they're not related when they actually really could be. But
I assume it's all related, or I
Exactly.
take it all in and I place more evidence on like, well, what is real? Like that alignment's real. That
Right.
Baseball Hall of Fame really is there. They really do an annual like exoteric ritual like every Lammas, and they call it the baseball induction weekend. And it's always like the
Sure.
first weekend in August. And so like when you begin to see something, and
Nick, in your favor, I say two. There's two lines that I try to have coined, although none of them are mine. One says, the original says the lie is different at every level, and I think that the truth is different at every level. And the
Oh,
second one says that coincidence takes planning.
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So I think that in your favor, according to what you are saying, I think you join those two, and you have the reality that you find today.
Coincidence takes planning, and the first one was
You choose either the lie is different at every level, or the truth is different
truth
at every
is
level.
different. Okay, and the how when you say the truth changes or the truth is different, are you being like tongue in cheek with that, or are you being like literal, like the truth, like
Literally, because
in terms of, like,
imagine the 32 steps of masonry. Each
Okay.
level has a different truth. Each level shows a different lie. And as you going, and when you finally get to the ultimate step, you'll get the ultimate that they have to give. It doesn't mean that it's the only one that exists, but it's according to, for instance, if you have levels of clearance, right? You're a kind of a spy and you have levels of clearance. You'll be lied above the level that you have. Right? And when you go to the next level, you find out this guys were lying to me whole time in my face. And here is the information. So the lie or the truth, as you prefer to choose it, is different at every level. It is different at every level of awareness. If you have lower awareness, you wouldn't notice the singing of the birds, or the contact with the divine, or the capacity to experience life in a different interpretation. If you have a high level of awareness, then you can perhaps empathize with many things that most people don't detect. So the truth or the lie is always different at every level. Either we're speaking metaphysically, physical, spirituality, scientifically, conspirationalistic. My English went to Spanish and Italian at the same time. So. So that's what I mean with it. I'm not trying to contradict you. I'm just trying to help you to see that everything is connected somehow. Yes, at some point in time.
Yeah, but there are also various levels of connection.
Yeah.
Yes. Those
Not
are
all
the different levels of
on
truth
a
of life.
certain, so okay, I'll go with you on like the truth is relative. Like so on a certain truth, all connections are the same because it's just one, right? Like something has to all boil up to this, all has to boil up to something. So it's all
Everything that is external to you, you cannot say if it is true or lie. You can only accept it.
correct. Correct. And so this is what that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm accepting. And then exactly.
All right. So what was the next thing you had?
So let's tie in. What are your thoughts, knowledge, opinions of this concept of river goddess worship?
Oh, I'm done for that.
It's a pagan animistic type of culture, very old,
You know,
probably as old as the river itself.
But why would people do it?
Because
I
the
think
river is the source of abundance, is the source of life, is the source of water, is the source of food, is the source of mythical events, is the source where even the cryptids or the spirits come. It's a place where you go and deposit your elders because you know that the river is in constant movement and they will spread through the world. Or why you build them, why you bury them beneath a tree, because you know his spirit will be imbued in a tree and he will live forever. So the Egyptians did sarcophagus. In America, they choose trees. It's well, the basic is the same. That just the building is different. It's the same thing.
I
And the pyramids
I
are
thought
also
that
near the river.
I thought that the
Sorry,
waters of the river represent the divine feminine, like the birth waters and
sure.
like, all
Like
that stuff.
like in initiation, you are brought into darkness. You are killed. You are reborn, and you emerge through the water into the light. Right. So it's always present as the feminine element that gives birth. Exactly.
it's always a place of memory. So
Two.
when you goddess worship, it's always a place of memory. And when you're talking about physical navigation, a river is always a place where you remember where you're at. It's one of the things. It's a constant reminder of always being there, especially when you live next to it. So it's always a place of memory. And the Greeks, Mnemese is the mother of the muses. And the muses is, also this sort of river idea. So this river of time and how things change and the weaving of time, it's all directly related to this ancient river goddess worship, I think.
You know what I found interesting when you were showing that map and you were showing that lady? One of the first things that popped into my head is that I've seen Robert Flood and I think Heinrich Kunrath and a couple other alchemists. It looks a lot like, reminds me of the star card, how you always have this woman's foot over by water and one not. It's the way it is drawn, just reminded me of manuscripts I've seen before. Just a woman in that position, right near water, but other occult things are going on around her.
It's interesting that you called her that lady because it's primarily assumed when it's talked about in a historical context that that's a man.
Oh yeah, because I've seen it in female form. That's why.
But I mean, in my opinion, it's definitely
kind of androgynous to me, that picture.
Yeah, honestly. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
We're dealing with
I was like seeing if there was tits on it. I was like, yo, what's going on with that?
With an androgyny or a straight up like a woman dressed or encapsulated to look like a man. I mean, that certainly is a possibility, particularly when you look at the history of like the ideas or the symbols which were first put out into the collective mind in the colonial times. The first silver dollar was called the flowing hair dollar, and it was of Lady Liberty, and her hair was down, it was flowing. It's very similar to the flowing hair in this image. And so when you begin to look at this as, I mean, my personal opinion is that the reason why all the different cultures did the river goddess worship is because it was obvious. Like they had a relationship and experience of life where like that was the most obvious thing to do. Like they related to life different than us. Like I can't imagine what it would be, but I can conclude that it wasn't like a dogma as much as it was like self-evident that this is our relationship with our environment, and this is a access, like it's literally divine. It's literally divine, and there's a being with it.
Real quick, just I hate to go back to the same image, but whatever you just described was the same thing that I was describing on the other image by Robert Flood. The chick has her hair down purposely, that I think is to show that she's not married and tamed, and she's got stars around her head. Same fucking thing.
Yeah, we're starting to see this thing, and when you think about river goddess worship, so we'll transition a little bit to the John Dee stuff and the Enochian magic. Like, I don't know if I don't kick around tires on cars I don't want to play around with. Maybe that metaphor got mixed up when I was saying it.
No,
but I don't play around
really
with Enochian magic just because I don't know what it is. So I don't know if it's like, I know it's a thing and I understand the logic behind it and I understand that people practice it. But when I'm going to be talking about it, it's from just like an academic pursuit as opposed to like a literal, like experiential. Gotcha. So I went to, I mean, I question the whole Enochian, the whole Enochian story, in my opinion, has a lot of like potential holes you pop through of like John Dee's locker. But let's go down to, can we go down to the John Dee pages?
Sure. Yeah, I was hoping we get to those. I was going to bring up the other ones that we didn't see yet.
Oh.
Yeah, because there was some John Dee.
So yeah, like right here. So this is just like from the John Dee Society, whomever they may be. But like how they want to position or their truth as it relates to John Dee. Like John Dee is another one of these things which has me scratching my head. But when you look into the Enochian magic, and let's keep on going down to the page with the highlighters. I think it's 3 slides down. This is from an essay. No, one more. This one. So this is from an essay called Enochian Apocalypse, written by Donald Tyson. So, however, you guys seem to be much more knowledgeable in this area of scholarship than I am. This is his explanation of like Enochian magic. It's the there we go. Yes, same Donald Tyson. At the heart of it, Enochian magic is controlling tutelatory spirits. You're calling in other entities so that they can control the tutelatory spirits. And so let me ask you this question. Assuming like the first question is, do you think tutelatory spirits, is that a real thing or is that not a real thing? Like, what's your thoughts or opinions?
That's for headless, not for me.
Well, I think in a lot of the material you get from this, it's the conversion of elementalism into tutelary spirits, right? So each one of the squares that they operate on within the towers of Enochian magic is supposed to be a god or a goddess. Well, or an angel figure, right? And these angel figures come through as you're doing these rituals to give you these inspirations or visions or ways of seeing the world that are different from each and every one of the other angels. So you have to know specifically the answer. It's a very systematized, very computerized way of accessing different information.
But do you think, like, if you go into a forest, that there's like one primary conscious entity, which is and I'm not like, I'm just curious, like where people meet it, like experiential. Like, this is not research to me. This is how I go through life, and I'm trying to understand the realm, like a gonzo researcher. I take the approach that this is a real quality of what the realm is, like baked into the cake in the same way that rain makes grass grows, but it's kind of tweaked up because we can't see it or we experience it in a way which at some point was different. And that's why I say, like, it was probably obvious back then, but right now, like, I don't even know what I'm looking for. I'm trying to remember something which may or may not be tied into this, what Donald Tyson introduces right here as the Enochian apocalypse, which has been more or less a so this is Tyson's thought in this article, is that John Dee opened up something that he didn't realize, and more or less Earth has been under control ever since then, and it's kind of moving towards this Enochian Enoch technology. This is just one story. I'm not saying this is happening, but this is a narrative, and there's certain touch points which we can really see between the oldest river and the first computer and the Theosophy having their baseball Hall of Fame like on the top of it. Like what are we working with? What's going on?
Yeah, this repeats again and again. For me, as for only me, I believe, much like Steiner, there's realms and levels to this stuff. Like you can't see it, but obviously with multiple religions seeing things or channeling things, or we've got even the Seance of the Nine, right? We've got Howard Hughes afraid about blowing things up because it's opening holes. I mean, there's got to be something to this. It's happening through time again and again and again and again. So as for me, I believe it.
So let me do a little pivot right now, and then we'll come back to that. It is my opinion that the purpose of going down these rabbit holes, and this is still just the beginning of the rabbit hole, is what I call primordial hardware. If we're holding this reality in place in our agreements and consciousness, most of our agreements are hidden, even hidden from ourselves. Like we don't even realize what we have been agreeing upon. Like, I mean, I teach a class called "There's No Such Thing as Monday," because like just to introduce the idea that Monday, that's not a real thing. Like we're holding it as real, but it's not it doesn't exist unless you're holding it as real. Like it would disappear. So much of our reality is being concocted from this starting point. And as we begin to like see this story as it is, and we can begin to like kind of deconstruct all of the narratives that have been built upon it and the other stories that have been built upon it, like we can go down to the original, like we can go down to where there is no story, where the feet literally meet the ground, and we can begin to not to do anything other than to step outside of the dream that we're all encapsulated in whether you want to call that the EMFs or the programming of the story and the technological predestined destination.
I got a really interesting way of proving that from Donald Tyson's own book. He says, when Dee and Kelly request aid from the angels on personal matters, the angels either put them off with vague promises or tell them outright human concerns do not interest them. What does that tell you about these angels? What does that tell you about this system? What does it tell you what they're building?
So, I mean it first off, like I don't even know if there's a John Dee, but I do know that there was the story and the guys who went searching in the British Museum found his books. Like, so maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but I know that I'm starting from something I don't know from certain. But that being said, what I do know is I can see how the things that began upon this river have spread. And I can say that the histories that they tell us all go through the same channels. They all follow the same path through John Dee to Francis Bacon, through the Rosicrucian. And then, like, I can poke holes, and then I'm still left scratching my head saying, well, how did then these four colleges that are in the Red Rose and the White Rose City get lined up in the perfect invisible college, Rosicrucian Cross on the oldest river going over the first computer? And then I take a deep breath and I'm like, okay, I need to get my consciousness first grounded outside of that story. So because it's so invasive.
Right.
Look,
Well, what if that cross that you're showing on that map right there, what if that's actually this, I guess it would be Enochian computer, because the Enochian tablets are set up in that same cross design.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, it makes sense. Like,
Is there any
I'm not saying
obelisks
that's
around
the
there or
case or
anything?
not, but it
Yeah,
makes sense. Like, that's part of the invitation. It's like, well, what if? And like, to Ricardo's position is like, well, whatever you choose to hold your truth to be, you're going to find it to be so, because that's part of how this realm works. So if we know those things, like how do we meet the oldest river? How do we get grounded outside of the technosphere? How do we remain or maybe become human beings in the technological age?
well,
And to
I
me,
think
part
what
of it is unwinding this story because it grounds us back in myth to the earth in a way which is both literal and unexplainable.
Yeah, because this is a repetition of the old megalithic culture that precisely used that animism, that natural force, to create these monuments that were profoundly technological. I can send you my book, The Resonant Earth. So they are profoundly technological, creating conditions for us to speak to ancestors, for us to visit distant places, for us to have consciousness experience, for us to have rituals, for us to have communion with tribes that are far away. And all of this was done by the river in these megalithic structures. And I could not help to watch when you presented your photographs that there are slabs of granite, what it seems to be granite, on that circle that are not symmetrical. And if they are not symmetrical, they are intentional. And if they are intentional, they are part of the design, whatever the fellow told you that he created that for. Because all of these people do is to create with symbolism ever and ever again. And that cross that you find there, it's a cross that was already there. They just reused it, because I'm sure if I go and look into my map that I will find a node point in that area for sure.
So, okay. So I tend to like, that makes sense to me. Like,
Nice.
that's something I could like, all right, well, this is something I'd want to go test, like particularly as it relates to, were these places built there because they're already known? I mean,
Exactly. They are
that's why
reappropriations.
the secret location was put in the map. It was for people with
Yes.
eyes to see. And so it's marking something.
Gentrified.
Those granite stones weren't originally put there, because I was there when they used to be in a different configuration, and they've been moved by the landscapers, and maybe they were told to move them. But regardless of like how things got here, they're here and they're witnessed. They're being witnessed right now. And at least the story warms my heart, because that's part of this, because part of it is like deciding what are the stories you're going to believe.
You are witnessing, we are witnessing, they are using it. That's the difference.
Say that again.
You and I are witnessing, they are using it. That's the difference.
Well,
I say we go out there.
That's what I think. That's what I think is kind of that to me is the funness of this question, and the value of what might be called field research, or just like experience of being alive. Like, the only way I know that's true is like I go there, and I think that it's been whomever they are has wanted this to be revealed. Otherwise, it wouldn't be revealed in such a way.
And why makes you say that it was revealed?
I'm sorry?
What makes you say it was revealed? You find it, but it's still hidden from the rest of the world. So it's not revealed at all.
Well, the fact that someone sees it, I would say that would be a revelation.
No, the fact that someone sees it, does the tree that fall in the middle of the forest is real if no one watch it? It's your case. You found it. For them, has no meaning.
No, but I'm the one who heard the tree fall. So then the tree.
Yeah, but it's your reality, not the reality of the rest of the earth. It's still hidden. It's not hidden for you, but it's still hidden.
I think a lot of this stuff goes to the idea of memory palaces. You know, all
Yeah.
of this stuff exists inside of our minds as these maps as we move around the landscape. And so these ideas find a way of getting in, whether people want to really, you know, see it for themselves or not. There's still going to be an influence.
Sure, and
There's
that's the reason why we can have this conversation and these discussions, because all of us have our own mind palace. Otherwise, we're just agreeing with each other, and that's it. You don't even need to speak. It's a conjunction of all of this understanding that reveals a higher truth. And you brought a higher truth to us today, and we are analyzing it according to what you are presenting.
What's the purpose of getting out of bed?
Be different for a lot
It
of people.
It will be different for everyone.
Yeah.
For some people, it's to go jump a bridge.
Some people can be going to get dope so they don't shit themselves.
Sure.
Why? Where did we come from? The human
That's
being.
a good question. I believe in panspermia
What does that mean?
and intentional design. Panspermia it signifies that there is a natural intention to creation. It means that a meteorite impact on a planet can not only eradicate all life, has created life anew, as Chicxulub, for instance, 65 billion years ago, millions years ago.
Is the creation creating itself in that perspective?
If you go to Ouroboros, that it's one of the symbols that these people that you are showing us use, you'll see that there is no beginning, there is no end, because there is no answer to that. So it's constantly reinventing itself. It's constantly a phoenix emerging from the ashes. It is destroyed to be recreated. There is no end to energy. Everything transforms.
So okay.
I would even like the I would even say the infinity symbol.
Right.
It's just a little different.
Well, you are not expecting an answer, right? I hope that you were not, because there is no answer to that question. And if someone gives it to you, it's not real, because
Right.
no one knows.
So then you're still here, and that
Yeah.
question can't be answered, or at least it can't be answered like in the way that we use consciousness. But that doesn't mean like we don't exist, but there's seemingly like a really good intelligence behind all of this.
Sure.
Like,
That's
what's
why I
the
said
point?
intelligent design, panspermia
what's
and
the
intelligent
point?
design.
So, and I'm being rhetorical when I say this, is like, well, then what's the point? Like, why go through? Why does the creation create itself to see itself for? What's the point?
From my perspective,
Yes, I'm curious
for
for
the
that.
amusement of the creator itself, as an animus equilibrium, what I call it. So
Right,
it's a
right.
constant flow of conscious information that the
Right.
experiences from the source into us and from us into the source, all connected, no matter if you are material, immaterial, if you are a tree or an animal, a person, or a volcano, a planet, a moon. It
Right.
doesn't matter. Everything has consciousness. The sun
Right.
is consciousness.
Right. My
So-
consciousness is tied to a human being, so, or the human body at least.
Yeah,
And
it's a
so-
biosuit that you use
It's a
to
biosuit,
experience
but
this
it's like-
reality.
it's the experience. So, okay.
It's like partially solar power too, if you think about it.
In fact, I defend that we are not this. We are just connected to this. The brain is but an antenna that allows us to communicate to our real self that lies in the morphogenetic field around us. And that's why how we are all connected. Some people are more aware of that, have more expansion. Their circle of influence is bigger. Some people have lower awareness, so their influence perhaps doesn't even get out of their biological suit. But we are not this.
For the people who have like some degree of awareness and they could hear the tree fall, what's the point? You said for the amusement, then that makes sense. Oh, this is what I wanted to share. I wanted to share that I think it's Francis Bacon who wrote it's God's pleasure to hide the treasure and it's the king's joy to discover it, or something along
Exactly.
those lines. But
Exactly.
to this point of the joy of like the self-awareness part that's baked into the cake of this mystery that we find ourselves with the capabilities of having some degree of self-awareness. So, I mean, that's always my point of reference. It's not like it's like, so the oldest river isn't just the oldest river in my mind. Like, I didn't make that up. I didn't make up the first computer, and I didn't make up like everything that's happening right now in the world. And I didn't make up like, you know, the backdrop of our history, but we can see like all of this stuff kind of points to the same location on the same body of water. And like, yes, all of the intellectual stuff, but at the end of the day is like, you're in your meat suit and you're still here and you're going to get out of the bed for some reason. Like, what do we do?
I
What
want
do
to
we
know
do
what
with
John
knowledge?
D.
What would John D do?
Oh, I just want to know about all these slides.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do we still have more of those with John D?
Which one were you curious about, Heidi?
Oh, I just wanted to know. We started in on this and we kind of went left field. So I was just curious where we were going.
Yeah. I was. I just forgot actually they were on John D.
Well,
Yeah, me too.
I
Yeah.
think it all kind of culminates in this D-Wave computer, which is right along the same.
Somebody mentioned that earlier in the chat. Somebody said D-Wave.
Yeah, there's a slide which shows the dates of the introduction into the collective mind of
Sorry.
the, you know, D-Wave is known as the first quantum computing company. But again, like what you said, I think about this with the quantum computers. They could just be boxes, empty boxes in a warehouse, and we're creating them ourselves in our minds. Like, that's part of like the mystery of like what's actually happening here.
D-Wave, John D. That's funny. I didn't even catch that, the D and D-Wave.
John D. Rockefeller is is involved in a lot of this stuff as well.
Huh. Is there anything else? What about was there anything on the Mormons that
So again, when we're looking at this and we're open with like, what's the nature of flowing water? What's the nature of like hierarchy of age? You know, these are rhetorical questions. Like, as it was said before, like, we can't answer them. We could ask them and kind of like loosen our tight hold. And for what's the purpose? Well, I'm alive and it's supposed to be fun. But there's seemingly something else at play. And so rather than denying that, how do you meet that? Like, that's built into this cake as well. Like, how does this make sense? How does this align? So what slide were you pulling up?
I was just going through it to see if there was any that maybe we didn't talk on that we could just make sure. I didn't want to leave them out.
Oh, the Mormonism. That's what you asked.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Also tied into the story, and this is where, at least for me, it got very, very interesting, is in Mormon history, they'll tell you that their founder was baptized by John the Baptist in the Susquehanna River, and he was given the authority to reestablish in the Susquehanna River. He was given the authority to reestablish the Aaronic priesthood, I believe it's called. And that's where it began. Like, that was like the stepping stone, and then Joseph Smith had two stones, which he then used to seer stones that allowed him to decode the golden disc, which became the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, how did that go, Heidi, actually?
Yeah, I mean, he channeled, you know, he used them. Definitely, he was channeling to decode by putting his head in the hat, blocking out all the light. But yeah, yes, he definitely used the seer stones for sure.
Well, they say he had the I never pronounced
The
it
golden
correctly.
plates,
the white stone and the black stone of the high priests. Well, yes,
Urim and Thummim. Yeah,
right. A white stone and a black stone. And like, I don't know if any of that's these stories are true. Like, I don't know if
It's
he saw a golden disc.
No, you know what's
But what I
interesting?
do know is that, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you about the mineral content of these different places along the Susquehanna.
Well, that's what we're gonna go and maybe lean on a little bit. But where was I going to go with? Oh, the Book of Mormon. Like, feel whatever you know, meet the Book of Mormon any way an individual wants to meet them. But what we can say for certain is when they quantify like the number, how many times books have been printed. Like, these are the 10 books most printed in the history of the printing press. And so usually is what Chairman Mao's book in China, and they made billions of copies or whatever the number would be. Maybe the Bible's number 2, but the Book of Mormon is like top 5. And so if we think about that in terms of imprint on consciousness, like I'm saying nothing about the content. I'm just saying, like, you know, if you do it enough, like, it's going to have an effect. Like that's a real deal influence. Like, it is affected and it's quantified at least through the Guggenheim scale. You know, so he was said to have a white stone and a black stone. And if you look at the geology or the geology of in that region, and particularly if you look for things that are unique, things that are not found elsewhere, the first thing which you're going to find is anthracite coal. So anthracite coal sounds so unsexy, right? You're like, oh, it's coal. Coal sucks it. Like, that's fossil fuels and dirty. But if you had a different context, you'd be like, this is rock that lights on fire. None of the other rocks light on fire. And why is this rock lighting on fire? Like, this is an important rock. And then anthracite, how it's separate from the other coal or the other rocks that light on fire is that it's more pure. There are less impurities. It has a higher carbon percentage. And so the expression of it is it's a rock that lights on fire that has no smoke. So now, like, without like a point of reference, without like our current culture point of reference of coal, like, at least that's showing itself as interesting, anthracite to begin, as unique amongst this realm which we're finding ourselves in. And then anthracite, I think I read this once, like this number, but even without the number, it's true. The overwhelming majority of known anthracite deposits on Earth is found in one place. It's basically right underneath where Joseph Smith did his channeling in the Susquehanna, and like, what I think that was like the 1840s is when that happened. So we've got this very rare rock, which is only found in one place, which is culturally touched. The biggest anthracite mine is called the Lackawanna mine, and it's in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So like the office. And it's what the people and the men in the high, you've seen or read the book by Philip K. Dick or the short story or saw the TV show, The Man in the High Castle. They say like the Nazis went into the Lackawanna mine in order to access the different dimensions to timeline jumping. Now, I don't know if that's what happens. I went into the Lackawanna mine because I want to find out for myself. My sense is something else is going on, but like these are the cultural touch points. So we've got the anthracite, which is the precursor of graphite. This is what the geologists say, at least. Like, the graphite came from anthracite, which has me scratching my head because I'm like, you're telling me anthracite's in one place in the world, but graphite's everywhere, but it came from anthracite? I don't have an answer to that, but this is what they say. And what we're working with and where I'm going with this is graphite cut one molecule thick becomes graphene oxide, and it becomes the superconductor hardware of like the next generation of where all this is going. And so we can begin to see, it's got to come from somewhere, right? But we can begin to see these ties of actual unfoldment of life and we can begin to see like this story around it. We can begin to look at what's actually happening with the computers and the technologies and what it's doing in people's heads. And like, oh, I don't have to write anymore because ChatGPT writes for me. And like, there is a direction we are going. I don't know where it's going to end up, but we can see right now where it's connected, and we can meet that.
Look, I myself, I don't think that AI is making people stupid. I think AI is showing who is stupid. It's completely different, because
I think it's
technology is not good or bad. It's how you use it.
It
And I
has
think
nothing
that
to do with
AI
being
is a
stupid.
great
It has
tool.
to do with being a human being. It's making them not human beings. They're not creative.
No. The people it wasn't a human being before. If it was like that, it isn't AI that is doing that. The use that you do of an object doesn't define the object; it defines you.
Okay.
I honestly think when it comes to AI, there's probably a million. Just like assholes, everybody's got an opinion.
Sure, I'm one.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we could go around the circle for that one.
One of the interesting things about the mineral deposits is you've also got the Herkimer diamond. So you've got
bingo.
The Blackstone.
Now we got our white and black stone.
Yeah.
Were those stones circular?
No, they're naturally perminated.
No, I'm talking about like in Joseph Smith's story. I was
he had like upwards of 6. But the favorite one was brown, and it was kind of circular. The white one, it looks sort of jagged, but nobody's ever seen it because they just do an artist rendition. So hard to know. There was like a green one. There was all kinds. He was messing around with all kinds of things, but
it's a convoluted story because the current Book of Mormon is not the Book of Mormon he translated as well.
Yeah, you have to go back to the FLDS versions if you want.
Real quick, I wanted to ask this. Sorry to interrupt. I just keep forgetting. Is Aberdeen the guy associated with baseball? Did you mention before?
Doubleday.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad.
Aberdeen is where the first computer is located at Aberdeen Proving Grounds.
Which
connects to Aberdeen, Scotland. And if you know your Aberdeen, Scotland, there are 2 rivers there, and one is Dee, the River Dee, and the other is the River Don. So like John Dee is like, when you begin to see how this is infused into a dream, which is being, well, I'll leave it at that.
I think there is this linkage between all these rivers, right? So you've got the River Seine.
Has to be.
In France, and this is this river goddess that was called Seine, and then I think it goes into the fact that the Mormonism was the revival of the Aryan priesthood. They've got all of these different European styles of magic coming together.
It's the Aaronic priesthood, the priesthood of Aaron, not
right,
Aryan. Yeah,
yes,
Aaronic.
Aaron, the brother of Moses.
Yes.
Well, there's a lot of people today that trace a lot of magical history from Europe, sort of the Druidic tradition, into what was his family was about. And so it was sort of like an evolution off of these prior forms of magic that then translated really well with the folk magic tradition and a lot of the apocalyptic visions that were going on at the time. So having kind of like a root in this European tradition of folk magic, and not just that, but this high magic that's coming through in other ways. You've got
Solomonic
tradition,
yes,
right?
Solomonic magic.
Things. So to me, it seems like there was kind of a revival of the sort of folk magic tradition going on in that region. Maybe being spearheaded by the fact that, Joseph Smith was a society descendant, making him a Society of Cincinnati member on some level. So, and he struggled against the federal government. So it does look like a power struggle within these families. So it was like the largest militia ever to ride out against the government when they settled in Utah. So there is a rebellious aspect to it as well.
Huh. I've got about 15 minutes left in me. So if there's
Okay.
any like direction, any direction which you would like to go with this, I'm happy to take it there.
Well, this mouth of the Chesapeake Bay, this is where a lot of the first slave trade took place. Isn't this the 1619 location?
That I don't know specifically, but I know that that might make sense. What I know for certain is it's more tied into when people talk about that history of the Underground Railroad. Like that's part of the history of going up the Susquehanna and then arriving at the towns that were located at the 40th parallel in the Susquehanna River. And then that would be the escape route, if you will. Interesting about where that transition from river to bay occurs. That town is called Havre Grace, Maryland, and it's named after Le Havre, France. Le Havre, France is the port town where the Seine, which used to be called the Susquehanna, empties out into the channel. So when we talk about this repeating sort of like there's a modus operandi, there's an echo, there's a repeat. What exactly it is, like I think I don't know what it is, but it's occurring. We can measure it, we can see it, we can follow it. Like that is to me a key marker in the naming of that land water space of the correlations.
Yeah, I don't doubt you.
Anybody else have any questions or anything that you wanted to ask? Ellis or Heidi? Ricardo?
Well, I used to do a lot of work on the highways up at Havre de Grace. And so there's so many different little historical monuments all up and down that section of the road right there. And man, when the accidents happen on that bridge, because, it crosses right there after the dam, and then it flows out into the Chesapeake. It's just a really interesting area that's just so coated with history.
Coated with history and filled with top secret hidden government sites, particularly in that area by that bridge.
Underground, you mean?
Mm-hmm. That whole region from Camp David, Maryland, Greenbrier, West Virginia, Army War College, Gettysburg. Like if you begin to look at that as complex points, like it's
hot weather, Site R.
Yes, exactly. That's right in the middle of all of it. Fort Indiantown Gap.
Yep. Well, I don't know if Indiantown Gap is. I used to drill out there, and I didn't see a lot of secrecy going on, but definitely in the periphery, they've got a lot of equipment that is just off the charts there, and it's just supposed to be a National Guard base.
Yeah, it's supposed to be that, isn't it? So, I mean, maybe this, if there weren't any questions, I'll maybe begin to wrap this up for what I would hope, if there's someone paying attention, like what would be able to take from this is it is my opinion through experience and of interest and just being, curious of what this is, that, there's a timing going on right about now. I mean, you could say that at any given time, yes, but we can see the buildup. If we're old enough, we can see, particularly as it relates to technology, that we're moving somewhere quicker, faster. And though we're in the middle of it, we can recognize that we can't see it, because we can have the clarity to know that we have a blind spot. And when you begin to look at how we got here, we can come to a literal place, not a conceptual place, but a literal place where you can go in your body earth suit in this mystery, and you can begin to meet it in a way which is different than how the system is shaping you, right? This whole thing, like they tell you, it comes from behavior scientists of the military industrial complex. There might be a bigger story. Maybe the military industrial complex really has your best interest. It is my opinion that the best interest is that we can see what's becoming or going on, so we can return back or remember to what it means to be human. And what that means has to do with creativity and the way we hold ourselves, nothing built upon what we know. So all that being said, when you begin to hear these stories of the Susquehanna, and if it vibrates, if it echoes in your ear, if it feels like an invitation, not to get an answer, but to have an experience, like that would be my my desire, that this would be a threshold for people to begin to walk through.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michael. I think you've left a lot of people a lot of stuff to think about, because seeing the world as it is not seeing the world for what it is, you know?
Yeah.
As Ethan would say if he was here. Hi, Ethan. Awareness of awareness. Not everybody has it.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that awareness. One thing I do find interesting, I don't know, if this is something you're going to keep going on about, but I would like look to see if there's other structures and mounds around there too. I think there's something up with that area, and there's probably more things still to be found that might actually, maybe help add to whatever you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think the biggest story is, so right in that same spot, probably maybe 6 miles away upstream on the river, is where 3 Mile Island is. Right? I'm not suggesting that the story put out of what occurred in 3 Mile Island is accurate, but what I do know is that's a charged location because of the history of 3 Mile Island, and maybe something else happened. 3 Mile Island was just recently acquired by Microsoft to make 100% of the electricity created by that power plant is to go and power Microsoft AI data centers, next generation. 2 miles down from there, you're going to find Marietta, Pennsylvania. And Glaxo, this is the middle of nowhere. Like, keep in mind, like, these aren't population centers. Like, this is 90 minutes from Philly. This is 90 minutes from Baltimore. It's not like nowhere, but it's not like, like an epicenter. But we have these things which are happening right here, which are indications of a direction, or at least one of the directions. And the other one is that GlaxoSmithKline just put in like some absorbent number to make the vaccine manufacturing plant their cutting edge research vaccine based upon all the mRNA, blah, blah, blah. But the point I'm trying to make is that level of technology paradigm control is doubling down back to where it began in that location. Like, meet that story any way you want, but all of the data points are factual. There's no misinterpretation. They're really doing it there. It's really happening now. This is really the oldest river, oldest. Like, I'll say there's a little wiggle room with that, but it's definitely where the computer industry began. And so when we see that and we don't know what to do, we go back. We can go back and touch it and experience it. Maybe just in terms of story, but if you're lucky enough, you can do it in flesh and bone.
Well, I think the idea of story and memory are so linked together, and these rivers all have these deep memories.
Absolutely.
Once we could access them, we kind of understand the place we're at better. And as I didn't get to say it earlier, but land is the lens by which we view God. And by that, I mean what you're doing on the land, how you relate to this sort of life support system around us is how you're going to end up telling your story. Yeah. It's just that's how every moment works. You're half of every moment, and the world is half of every moment. you know?
Right. It's a feedback loop.
Right.
That's that's the self, that's how we, yeah.
I like it.
Nick,
All right, yes, go for
you're
it.
going to close?
Oh yeah, I was gonna let everybody plug their shows and everything.
Okay, fine.
No. But if you want to ask another question, go for
No,
it.
I was just, because he might have never seen it, I was just going to put the Google Earth so he can see what he can find there for his own research, because I cannot share it unless it is on a screen.
Which one is it?
The,
This one?
no, it has. Okay, I do it here. I was asking on the chat, but Nick didn't saw.
Oh, wait. All right. Yeah, yes, you can.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So every single one of these points will have alignments just like the one that you showed. So there is a history to each one of them. But
Certainly. How many of them are the oldest river?
Yeah, let's go see what it is all by him.
There we go. So what is that? What is the epicenter right there? What is that nodal point?
Let me put this straight north. You have to guide me. So I think it's around here, right?
I can't read what's on there yet.
So I'm at Arlington. I'm not sure if it is here or not. St. Matthew, Georgetown.
Yeah, that's DC.
Yeah. DC is on this. Like that's one of those coincidences.
You have Alexandria here. Those names are also not coincidence.
Exactly.
So, Fort Lawton, Woodbridge, where is it exactly, that mound?
Woodbridge is where the CIA began their, or Occoquan actually, but yeah, like it
here.
It's a little bit. It would be north. You'd be north and east a little bit from where you are right now. So if you zoomed out, yeah, looks like it's. Oh no, you want to go more to zoom out a little bit more. One more click. There we go. There's a yellow, the yellow pins that are in the middle, the two that are in the middle. That's right on the right.
This two?
No, the ones in the middle. They're three groupings of yellow pins, a little bit higher to the right.
Oh, this one's okay.
Yes. Oh no, that's Baltimore.
Oh shit.
So we're almost there.
Still up.
Yep.
There we go. Where you see it turn left. You see that? Do you see
comes straight down
that goes at the 45?
Oh, I see Aberdeen right there. Yeah, I see Aberdeen right there.
Yeah, that's it.
What are you looking for?
So
I don't know. I'm expecting Nick to guide me.
Zoom in right where the cursor is right now, where that node is. That's a node of lines, right?
Yes.
All right.
It's here, right? I'm recognizing. Is it here? No.
Yes, I'm looking for a label. I'm curious what cities are. What's the town?
You had Wizard Drain Cleaning over there.
Scroll up a little bit more.
Yeah, Wizard Drain Cleaning. And I had two Z's.
Oh, you got an airport.
I know I saw Aberdeen somewhere before too.
So so I'm really curious. Where's that pin? What does that say?
Here,
yeah.
St. Patrick, Harrisburg.
All right. So scroll up just a little bit more. Not that far. Not that far. Not that far. Yeah. So right there, you see where the bridge is.
Yes.
Okay. So no, don't zoom in. Don't zoom in. Go back to where you were. You're doing great. All right. So on the right-hand side of the bridge, if you go up like to where the trees begin, like just stay right there. Just like move the cursor. Yes, right there, right there. Stop. That's exactly where I am in this recording. Like that's where I'm sitting. Thank you for finding me.
This guy.
I kid you not.
I suppose, what were we looking for?
So that's some remote viewing Stargate shit.
Yeah.
Well, yo, but there is something going on over here with all
Yeah,
these-
look, the land seems to have been scratched or something in here.
That's the mountains in
That's
Pennsylvania,
the
all the way
mountains
to
the river goes through, brothers.
right. That's the this is like the Poconos type hills that sort of roll over and over again like that. Yeah, where Pittsburgh is.
This is weird.
Amazing. Geology is amazing. Look at that.
Yeah, it's the geology here is unlike anywhere else on. I mean, like to your point, like what I'm trying not to do is turn this into the Eagles versus the Steelers. Like this is my favorite team and this is my favorite team. I'm like, they're just markers. Like there's only one home run king. Like whether you like them or not, like as a way to articulate one
Stay there.
piece
Go back.
of the mystery.
Go back.
Yeah. So,
Oh wow.
with that one, we're like, yo,
Yeah.
what's going on over there?
What's that? I think I found
This is-
one of Joe Biden's son's tattoos.
Yeah, right.
He had the Finger Lakes tattooed across his back.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And if you really want to, yeah, I mean, the alignment between the bay and the river and the Lake Seneca, which is the largest of the Finger Lakes, like the how it lines up so perfectly, and then the history and what's happening. Like this is an influential point to the degree of this current moment of time, not like 2,000 years ago, or 2,000 timelines ago, but the one we're on right now.
Absolutely.
So I'm here for like probably, I move around a bunch. I'm staying at a friend of mine's house, and this guy is putting on. This guy is the North America's largest shilajit importer. If you know what that means, that's what this guy does, and he's putting on a festival. And because he's like a wholesaler of shilajit, he works with a lot of different people, and it's through that network, this really unusual, uncommon meeting of artists, like musical artists and visual artists, and people would be interested in a festival experience. Like they're coming together, and because this guy just so happens to live on the Susquehanna right in Harrisburg, like it's in this area. So that is in the next month. So I'm going to throw a plug out for that. That's called Sheila Jam. But it's like, if you're still nearby, like this is an opportunity to actually have an experience like near the water. Like if this like resonates, like this, what do they say? What's the old joke? Like this isn't a dress rehearsal. Like we're really here and we're really in our bodies. And like, what are you going to do? How are you going to meet it? Why, if this was all done for fun, are you having enough fun? And what does fun mean? And what does all the other bullshit? Like it's part of the process. And this is an opportunity to like actually have some experience. So I want to throw that out there.
Well, thank you. I live in Wisconsin, so I'm probably going to be here.
You were just familiar with the area. I'm immensely impressed with your Havre de Grace and Southern Lancaster knowledge.
I used to live there, so.
Oh, okay.
Baltimore.
There you go. Exactly. Where the Dali, that surrealist ship, like brought down the bridge on the lunar eclipse, which mirrored the same thing that happened in Tampa Bay in 1980, is just like the plane crash in Reagan National, just match it. Like there's a replica occurring right now. Like the timing is like look at how the program's working, and that's an indication of there's something going on.
Here's a program element. So one of the things, I was working on the highways, and I got rear-ended by a guy right before that bridge, and he completely, completely obliterated himself. He was dead, right? And they did a drug test on him, and he was high on coke and drunk and everything, and slammed into the back of my trailer. And
Holy
so at that point, right before that bridge collapsed and everything else, I decided I got to get out of there. So I moved out to Wisconsin, and there you go. I mean, if I
how much sooner did you leave Baltimore before the bridge went down? What was that time gap?
Oh, it was like 3 years.
Oh, okay. Not like
He
3
got
days.
an early notice.
I think, did he freeze up? Oh.
Yeah, I'm frozen up somehow.
Okay.
Let me see if I could reboot that.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, we'll let everybody start plugging their show because I think it's a good time to wrap it up. Oh, lost it. All right, Heidi, if you want, mention your show.
Thank you so much.
Go back. I'll plug his show, I guess, for him.
Absolutely.
He said he was rebooting, so it's disconnected to connect again. Yeah.
All right. Well, I am Heidi Love of the Unfiltered Rise. I'm everywhere podcasts are served. I do have my own website, unfilteredrisepodcast.com. You can check me out there. And his work is awesome. Usually just check out like anywhere online. His stuff is really in depth with these slides and stuff. So check him out. I think it was great.
Thank you very much, Heidi. And Headless Giant, please.
Hey guys, sorry I was late. I'm the Headless Giant. You can find me at a Headless Giant on YouTube and on X, and I put all sorts of schizo posts out there. And so you can also watch our show on Thursday nights where we take your emails and we talk about them. So that's on Thursday night, Headless's Magical Mailbag. If you want to get your email about an occult, paranormal experience, I'm taking a lot of emails now about mall dreams. If you've had dreams about post-apocalyptic malls, I want to hear about it. And that's at headlessgiantpodcast@gmail.com.
And Ricardo, thank you very much for joining us. Please let everybody know where they can find the work.
Well, you can find me by the ad that is on the screen. You can find on top of my page, I presume, many articles. You'll find my 2 books for sale, Stardust and Resonant Earth. And please check out the Institute for Natural Philosophy. Let me plug in our new podcast is Universe Unveiled, completely done by 2 females. So if you want a feminine touch, we have it on the Institute for Natural Philosophy. So thank you for having me, Nick.
Awesome,
Always a pleasure.
No,
it was awesome to meet Mike today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ricardo. And I'll make sure all your stuff is in the bottom if it's not already. And Mike, please let everybody know where they can find all your work, wherever you wherever you want to advertise.
So I've used the moniker Susquehanna Alchemy for my work. So if you search that, you'd be able to find it. I do have a Linktree page, which is for people who want to work with me directly. I mean, we didn't even talk about astrology, but like I get rid of all of the contradictions and like the zodiacs and like grounded in like knowing the sky and actually, that's why actually like having a clear understanding of the movements for the purpose, not just to like know my chart, but as a way in consciousness to move out of false time. Like if you're not purposefully moving out of false time and treating your mind in such a way, you're unconsciously just supporting, false times. Calendar system. So any type of work with the stars or inner work, like you'd find that on my Linktree, and then also the Sheila Jam. So that you'd have to go and search. But most of my stuff is I like it to be hidden. Like if you're going to find me, it's because you did a little bit of effort. This was a lot of fun. You guys were really knowledgeable, which is fun for me to speak to people who have broader perspectives and new perspectives for this material. Keeps it fresh for me. So thank you very much. And also for the opportunity to come on the show, Nick. So thank you for that.
No, of course. No, thank you. I mean, Headless was the one that was like, oh, you got to get this guy on the show. So he's better showing up today.
You've been a huge inspiration to me throughout my time moving out here and everything else. It's been really, really tough. And listening to you has been a source of strength and understanding all throughout that time. So I just really want to say thank you, Mike.
Oh, I appreciate that, brother. That feels good to hear. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you again, Mike. That was really interesting, and you got me thinking about that area. And so very, very interesting, and I appreciate the slides. I mean, that's when you sent me all those slides, I was like, oh, this is impressive. I love it. So again, I appreciate your work and you spending the time on the show, and I thank everybody else for coming on. That's what's up, and everybody in the chat, thank you. It was awesome. There was a bunch of you in there. That's why we go live. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.